The three things that I tend to highlight with my clients on the benefits of CPACE financing is that, for one, as a long-term fixed rate option, it's a natural hedge against interest rate volatility. The other things I will highlight is that it can often replace much more expensive debt or reduce their equity requirement on any property. And it's also very flexible debt that creates a win-win for the client. We can give them prepayment flexibility, but yet we have no callability on the PACE. So it really leaves the discretion and being able to react to the market environment all in the borrower's hands. More traditional financing or capital stack would include a first mortgage, will sometimes include some type of subordinate debt, either mezzanine debt or preferred equity, and then of course the common equity. The big difference with CPACE is it will often replace the much more expensive subordinate debt with a long-term fixed rate option that is significantly less expensive. Or it may otherwise reduce the borrower's equity requirement, allowing them to either keep more of the ownership of their property or to just put out less equity for an individual project. CPACE is an energy efficient product and is generally characterized in that way and promoted in that way. However, what I think is often lost is it's not only efficient from an energy standpoint, which is going to extend their economic benefits for years, but it's also very much an economic efficient product. It's going to allow them to stretch out their payments over 25 or even 30 years in some cases, to allow them to maintain the benefits and also maintain the flexibility that they have a significant portion of their capital stack that they don't have to worry about refinancing in the short term. PACE is not technically characterized as debt. So when we're working with other market participants, you're going to have some low leverage capital providers that don't want to exceed a certain loan to value ratio, but they might otherwise be okay with all of the economics of the project. So by inserting PACE, we're allowing them to maintain that fee mortgage at the percentage of the project that they want to, while being able to enhance or increase the leverage from the borrower's perspective. The alternative is by replacing more expensive debt with higher leverage, higher yielding lenders. We can reduce the portion of expensive debt, replacing it with inexpensive PACE, so that the overall capital stack is more economically feasible for the project. It works with a lot of other programs, such as USDA program that focuses on more rural areas. Those programs are very friendly and complementary with one another. It works very well with any program that is geared towards making construction or rehabilitation of a property easier and less expensive. Historic tax credits are a prime example. It's focused naturally on older buildings, and the older buildings are very conducive to PACE because those are generally the ones that are least energy efficient and also produce the most carbon emissions, which is the very purpose of which PACE was meant to bring both of those down. And then even things like opportunity zones. Opportunity zones are a very construction or rehab intensive program, which PACE works very well to help complement and supplement the benefits of that program. USDA program, by its very nature, focuses on rural areas. Rural areas have typically been very capital starved in the market. A lot of mainstream lenders don't like going away from major or secondary cities. So USDA provides a great option for that. Now, when you provide USDA along with PACE, it not only allows for that capital that is somewhat limited to certain dollar amounts within USDA, and it allows that box to be expanded by using PACE to allow those property owners in areas that don't attract as much investment capital to be able to increase their leverage or otherwise bring not one, but two public-private partnerships together to give them a great win-win on their properties. So there were several programs that work particularly well with PACE. PACE, by its very nature, is focused on older properties, looking to make them more energy efficient and help with the rehabilitation and sustainability of those buildings going forward. In that way, it pairs very well with historic tax credits, who, by their very nature, are focused on the oldest buildings in individual markets, building inventory. So putting the two of those together provides a great one-two punch. Another government program that works particularly well with PACE is opportunity zones. To qualify for opportunity zones, you have to be either building something from the ground up or putting very significant investment into expanding and or rehabbing a property. And those are the very types of properties that also work extremely well with PACE. These programs are also extremely complementary. The compliance of each does not interfere with one another, which allows great pairings with those in particular. The marriage between CPACE and historic tax credits is really one of the best in the market. Historic tax credits have been around for almost 50 years, completely focusing on the preservation of older architecture and more of a visual improvement of the property. Now, in order to achieve that visual improvement of the properties also have to be brought up to date on their systems. And while this is something that historic tax credits doesn't really focus on, when pairing it with PACE, you're bringing the old charm of these architecturally beautiful properties back to life. And at the same time, you're able to modernize them and make them very efficient from an operations basis. That's one of the biggest things. But in addition to that, historically, when properties have been rehabbed by historic tax credits, this is a very expensive way of rehabbing a property. You have to really work around a lot of the historic elements, which increases the cost of rehabbing these properties. And while historic tax credits help very much in deferring that cost, adding PACE in there allows to focus really on how the property is going to be operational and also sustainable, so that all of the work that was done in bringing these beautiful old properties back to life are maintained for generations. The Breakers project that we engaged on is really a perfect example of being able to marry different lending programs together. And we were able to do this particular one all under one roof. We first engaged on this property, which was originally built in the 1920s. When the borrower started on the project during COVID, got significant delays, ended up with cost overruns, and we were able to supplement the financing that they needed through CPACE. They also qualified for historic tax credits. The tax credits were brought in, and we were able to make an additional bridge loan to bridge them until those tax credits were truly realized by the tax credit investor. Combining all of these pieces are what really made this project possible. The eligible improvements for the PACE program can differ from state to state, and they'll include energy conservation, water conservation, renewables, and also certain resiliency measures. So, we generally start, depending on where the property is located, we will tell the borrower, the low-hanging fruit is going to be your HVAC systems, your water heaters, lighting, electrical, but it can also be used for a lot of the building envelope. Anything that keeps the property insulated is also adding to the energy efficiency of the building, as it's not allowing that efficiency to escape.